Today I've decided to recreate a memory, oops, sorry chicken, from my childhood. I used to be the only girl at home, or the only girl full stop. I used to go shopping with Mum every Saturday morning. It was a family of 6, took a lot of food. So we would go to SSW, which was the supermarket chain back then, and we would do the supermarket shopping, then go around to the market for the meat and veg. And there was a Ferguson Blair bakery, which is an Australian chain, I believe. And we would go there every week and buy a sand ring. And I just remember it being a joy. I don't think Ferguson Blair make those anymore. But I have found a recipe for a lemon sand ring. And I just thought, I'm going to give this a go and see if it's any good. So I'm starting off with my mixer. There we go. And we are going to use butter, 200 grams of, and I always use unsalted when I just like it better. That way you can control how much salt is in your recipe. There's no salt in this recipe at all, but I prefer it that way. The man wouldn't. He'd put salt in everything. But I prefer it. So, throwing this butter in. And we are going to put in with that some grated lemon rind. And we're going to need about 1.5 tablespoons. So, if you just want lovely lemony flavour, just use the peel. This is quite a decent sized lemon. Smelling fabulous already. So the sand ring we used to get was just plain vanilla. And I made one this morning and promptly dropped it. And isn't it great when you're making a cake for someone and you want to take it as a present, and as you are leaving, you drop it. So my parents very kindly ate it anyway and said it tasted great, but I will make them one again that I don't drop, which would be preferable. Brush all the lemon out here. I am going to do a bit more, I think. This little one here will do it. So I didn't have any of the cake this morning, not because I'm fussy, because it fell. I didn't have any because we went out for dinner last night to Chinatown here in Melbourne. There is a video about it. I am still very full. That was an amazing dinner. We had lots of yummy things. And I didn't have to cook and I didn't have to do dishes, which is nice sometimes. I really do like eating other people's cooking. I love feeding people, but I'm not so keen on eating it, which people say is weird, but if weird is what I am, there are worse things to be. There we go. Now I'll get the juice out of those afterwards because we need juice out from the lemon as well. Oh, this goes straight in here. So just brush that in. Okay, now I'm going to make a lot of noise. I'm going to put in a cup of caster sugar. Now, because this was called a sand ring, obviously it needs to be in a ring size shaped tin, and I'm using a bundt pan because that's the ring effect, and that's the shape I remember from Ferguson Blair all those years ago. There was just something special about it. And then we'd go home from the shopping. I think we got home from shopping, and then we would have lunch, and in the afternoon we would have a cup of tea with the sand ring. All right, let's make some noise. Now what you have to do once in a while is actually scrape it down, because otherwise you're beating the same piece and the rest of it climbs up the walls, like I do at times. to make sure that it's all getting mixed. Just stop it, scrape it down. Don't leave any on the scraper bit because it's not nice enough to steal yet, if you know what I mean, and pop it on again. And what I'm going to do now is add 3 eggs and beat them in, and then add them one at a time. Our eggs are large eggs and fresh and golden and beautiful. So that's the next bit. You straight away hear the noise has changed in the way it's beating up. I'm actually going to scrape that down a bit before I add the next one. So you can see the mix is becoming more liquid. Now, I always thought, that's not always thought, I didn't know why it was called a sand ring. And it's supposed to be because of the consistency of the cake, because there are 2 different types of flour in there. So, off you go. Egg number 2, number 3, very good. Now I need to squeeze those lemons. Okay, now, my daughter rang me just before, or texted me, whatever, and asked me just before Mother's Day, what would you like for Mother's Day? And I said, I want one of those lemon squeezers that turn them inside out. So when you squeeze the lemons with these, it looks like you put them in like that, but you actually put them in upside down and then squish away. I don't know if you can see that there. Squish away, put them in the same container as the zest, because that way you're not losing the zest. And you have beautiful lemon juice. There is a container over there I'm throwing them at. I'm not just throwing them willy-nilly. So it is cut side down. And I think she bought this on Amazon, I'm not sure. But they're fabulous. It gets every little last drop of juice out. Love it. She did well. All right, now the other half of that lemon. Now I need a third of a cup of lemon juice for this. So I will squeeze this one, and then, well, this will be a task and a half. Measure how much we've got. Try and get it in the container would be best. Oh, noisy today. Okay, so let's pour this in, see how much we've got. No, I'm definitely going to need that other one. So, I always have to second guess myself when I do this. All right, here we go. And the muscles are working. If you cook properly, you don't need a gym. You're using all your muscles when you're gardening and gathering vegetables and digging and weeding, all those sorts of things. Now this one, I think, was a little bit too big. So I'm just going to cut it in half and see if I can get a bit more juice out of this. Ah, that's better. I hate waste. And the fruit the peels that I'm throwing over there, that all goes into the compost because you can't put it in with the worms. Worms do not like lemon juice, apparently. All right, so hang on, there is a small, tiny, wee little pip there. Go away. There we go. All right, so I've got my third of a cup of lemon juice. Now what I'm going to add to this mixture here is 1 1/4 cups of self-raising flour and 1/4 cup of rice flour. And then that gets put in with the lemon juice. I'm not putting the whole thing in at once. Okay, so I am putting in about half of that. And then I will tip another 1/4 cup in this container and then 1/4 cup of the rice flour. Now, don't at any point get confused with rice flour. There is an Asian rice flour, totally different deal. This is, well, I use the Mackenzie's, but this is the rice flour, and it's usually got a picture of shortbread on it because it's traditionally what you use it for. So, okay, that is part of the self-raising flour. Yep, that's the rice flour. And I will tip out in the rest of the self-raising in a minute when I do the lemon juice as well. You take it easy when you start, otherwise if you turn it on full bore, you are going to end up with a huge blast of flour and look like all those lovely television comedies where everyone's always playing with flour, which is great, except they don't have to clean it. I always thought that was a ridiculous thing to do. Okay, so here we go. Now, one thing I did forget to do was turn on the oven. Okay, so let's stir this along. All right, once you've got it mixed up a bit, stop it and then scrape the rest of the flour down the sides so that you have the right consistency, because they give you those measurements for a reason. Baking is a very precise science. The mixture is designed so much solid, so much liquid, etc. So it is a good idea to make sure you follow those exactly, and then you will get the best results. Now, get down. And I'm going to resist the urge to stand here and lick it, although my children never could. Little batter thieves that they were. Okay, there we go. All right, pop this away. And we'd like to beat that a little bit more, not overly. Just make sure it's all combined. Now, a lot of people I know do the whole butter, flour, tap it all out. With these, you can see it's got an intricate pattern, and I'm never guaranteed that I'm going to get every bit. So I cheat and I spray. Just your usual cooking spray, not olive oil, unless you're making an olive oil cake. That really will affect the flavour. Right, so scrape this lot off. It's actually quite light, especially with 3 eggs, it would be, wouldn't it? But if you ever tested rice flour, it is very gritty feeling. It's different to ordinary flour, just your self-raising flour or plain flour. It does feel like sand, very fine sand. So I'm assuming that's where the recipe came from, by using rice flour. Now, this particular mixer, I don't know if I've told you before or not, sometimes leaves a little pile of flour in the bottom, so I always like to check that's all gone. It is all gone. So when you're distributing this, try and do it fairly evenly. It does settle a bit during cooking, but if you start off the way you mean it to continue, it makes life a little bit easier. I hope Gene feels like a bit of cake today. He doesn't like sweet things very much. Although having said that, there are some things he really enjoys. He loves custard. Loves custard. And that is fairly rich, well, to my way of thinking. If you do get a little bit on the middle of the pan, don't stress too much. It will either cook with the cake or be a nice crispy bit to have later on. The recipe does say 180 for 35 minutes. Having said that, I've got a convection oven and it went quite dark brown, whereas the sand ring from childhood was quite golden brown. So I am going to turn it down. Once I put it in, I am going to turn it down to 170 and see how that goes. And I always do just to make sure there's no air bubbles. Once the oven is hot enough, we will put it in and see how we go. See, that sticks out too far. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Ooh. Bunt.
Kick. People won't know what we're talking about.
That's it.
My big fat Greek wedding.
My big fat bunt.
It's not that big. I've got a bigger bunt tin than that. All right, you ready? Taste test.
Taste test. Give it to me, baby.
It's still warm.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
So what's in this one?
This is a lemon sand ring.
Okay.
When I was a kid, Fergus and Claire used to make one like this. That was a sand ring. Every week, I've already told them, every week we'd go and we'd get a sand ring.
Okay.
I'm just trying to recreate that because this cake uses rice flour as part of it.
Would you normally have custard or something with this?
No, we add it like that
Ah,
for afternoon tea with a cup of tea. So, taste it and see what you think.
cup of tea, love. I said love. Oh. Ooh, I like it when it's still warm. Oh, lemony.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
You like that?
Oh, yeah. You may make this again.
Oh, may I?
I'm good to you like that.
And I didn't drop this one. Can't have everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? This would be nice with custard though.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
There you go. Oh, thank you for tasting it. Well, you're not a big sweet person, so.
It was such a chore. Yum.
Let me know if you'd like the recipe. I'm going to keep eating.
Oh, I like this. Oh.
Yeah? Okay.